She was brilliant, hungry, and full of fire. But success spit her out like she was nothing. Ava poured her soul into her dream, only to be told she was not enough. One rejection became 10, 10 became 50. But rock bottom had not come yet. That came the night she lost everything: her job, her apartment, and the one person she thought would never leave. What happened next will shock you, because Ava was not done. She was just getting started. Ava Carter had moved to New York City with a suitcase, a sewing machine, and dreams louder than the subway at rush hour. At 25, she believed talent and passion would open doors. But New York did not care how talented you were. She sent out her designs to over 100 fashion houses. Most never responded. The ones who did said she lacked market appeal. Her days blurred into night shifts at a greasy diner and long walks in heels with blistered feet, delivering sketches no one asked for. She lived off cold pizza and instant noodles, but none of that hurt as much as when her boyfriend Marcus, the only person who believed in her, walked out the door. "You are chasing something that is not chasing you back," he said. Then he was gone. 2 weeks later, her landlord taped an eviction notice to her door. No job, no love, no home, just a duffel bag and a dream that looked more like a curse. Ava sat in the rain on a park bench in Harlem, hugging her sketchbook like it was her last piece of identity. The city moved around her like she was invisible. But deep inside, something snapped. Not in defeat, but in defiance. She had one last design, one last shot. She would make it count. Sometimes, rock bottom is not a place. It is a moment when you are surrounded by noise, yet feel invisible. Ava sat in that storm, broke, heartbroken, and convinced she had failed. But when desperation replaces fear, something powerful awakens. She made a decision that night that would change everything. Not with money, not with connections. Just a design, a spark, and a fire no one could see coming. But before success answered, life would test her one last brutal time. Ava spent her final dollars at a fabric warehouse's clearance table in Queens. She rode 2 trains and walked 6 blocks carrying bags of scrap fabric. With nowhere to live, she checked into a women's shelter, hiding her sketchbook and supplies in a pillowcase. It was a place where people whispered their pain at night and prayed the world would not forget them by morning. Under the flickering lights of the shelter's common room, she began sewing. Her hands shook. Her stitches were uneven at first, but by midnight, the dress had shape. By dawn, it had soul. The pain she had lived through was stitched into every fold. She stepped outside with the dress, wearing it over her worn clothes, and asked a shelter volunteer to take her photo. The alley behind them smelled like rot and rust, but Ava stood tall. Her eyes were tired. Her makeup had faded. But the dress? The dress spoke like thunder. She posted the photo on Instagram. No hashtags, no filter, just one sentence. "I lost everything, but I still have this." Then she put the phone down and curled up in the corner, expecting nothing. By sunrise, everything had changed. 50,000 likes, 20,000 shares, thousands of comments. But then, one message stopped her breath. It came from the creative director of a world-famous fashion house. "This is more than fashion. This is a movement. Can you meet today?" Ava blinked at the screen. She had not eaten in 2 days. Now the world was knocking. But it was not a fairy tale yet. Something was coming. Something that would shake her all over again. She had waited her whole life for this moment. So why did it feel like another trap? The opportunity was real. The email was real. But something felt off. Ava had the chance to rise, to be seen, to finally win. But when she walked into that high-rise tower, she did not know the price would be her identity. This was not the dream she fought for. This was a test, and what she chose next would define her forever. Ava stared at her reflection in a department store window before stepping into the headquarters of Carrington and Vale. Her dress, the one she made in a shelter with shaking hands, was now her armor. She wore it with pride, even if her shoes were cracked and her bag was torn. Inside, the polished floors and spotless walls made her feel like she had walked into another world. The creative director, Elise Martin, greeted her with a smile that never touched her eyes. She examined Ava's dress closely, nodding without speaking. After several minutes, she said, "You created this in a shelter?" Ava nodded. "That explains the emotion. It is raw, honest. It has gone viral for a reason." Ava waited. Then came the offer. "We want the design. The dress will be the face of our next campaign. But it must be under our brand. Your story is complicated. Our buyers want inspiration, not desperation." Ava froze. "So you want the dress? Just not me." Elise shrugged. "You will be paid well. That is more than most designers ever get." The room fell silent. Ava's hands trembled. Her heart pounded. This was her dream, but it came wrapped in shame. She saw it clearly now. They wanted her pain but not her name. Her story was beautiful only when it could be polished and sold. She stood up. "I'm not a ghost. I'm not a charity case. If my story is not good enough for your label, then neither is my dress." And with that, she walked away. From money, from fame, from everything she thought she needed. The moment she stepped outside, the city felt louder, faster, harder. But she was not broken. Then, a voice behind her said, "Miss, I hope you do not mind me stopping you." She turned to see an older man in a suit. He smiled. "My daughter showed me your post. My wife runs a foundation for underrepresented artists. She wants to meet you on your terms." Ava blinked. "Why?" He said, "Because you did not sell your soul. And that means something. Sometimes, the smallest moments change everything." Ava had turned down money, fame, and power because she refused to lose herself. With nothing left but her pride, she stepped into a new world, one that did not chase her, but welcomed her on her own terms. Her journey was no longer about survival. It was about becoming a force no one could ignore. 2 days later, Ava met Marlene Blake, the woman behind the foundation. Marlene was a former fashion designer who had walked away from the industry to help voices like Ava's be heard. She did not just want the dress or the viral post. She wanted to understand Ava's story, the pain, the fight, and the fire that kept her going. "You do not need their label," Marlene said softly. "You are your own brand." The foundation gave Ava a full grant, a workspace, and a place at New York's Independent Fashion Week. More than that, they gave her freedom, the freedom to create without compromise, to tell her story without censorship. Ava's first full collection, Threadbare Souls, was met with praise and awe. Influencers wore her designs, celebrities shared her story, but Ava never forgot where she came from. The park bench, the eviction, the shelter that became her studio. She returned often, not to relive her past, but to empower others. She taught sewing classes to women fighting their own battles. She donated profits to shelters and programs that helped homeless artists find their voice. She became more than a designer. She became a symbol. When the fashion house that once asked her to erase her story called again, she smiled. "No," she said firmly, "because now I own my story." At her next runway show, Ava stepped out wearing the original dress, the one that broke her before it built her. Looking straight into the camera, she said, "This dress is my pain, my fight, my truth. It broke me before it built me, and I would not change a thing. Because true success is not given, it is claimed." If you enjoyed this video and it touched your heart, please consider subscribing to my channel. Your support means the world to me and helps me keep creating more stories like this. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Love.